Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the 10th Industrial Forum organized by the Faculty of Engineering, Multimedia University. A very good morning to the Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, Faculty of Engineering, Multimedia University, Engineer Associate Professor Dr. Hezarul Abdul Karim, the panel of distinguished speakers, Mr. Sanjay Vaghasya from Ooredoo Myanmar Limited, Mr. Abdul Karim Fakir bin Ali from Maxis, and Mr. Hizam Ghazali from TM. Our distinguished moderator, Engineer Dr. Victor, the Chairman of the Industrial Linkage Committee, Dr. Siti Azlida Ibrahim, ladies and gentlemen, academicians, fellow colleagues, students, and ladies and gentlemen. The theme of our forum this year is harnessing digitalization and technology in facing the COVID-19 technology. This is the 10th forum that is being organized by the Faculty of Engineering. We have been organizing an annual forum every year ever since the year 2012, with themes ranging from management, sustainability, artificial intelligence, Industrial Revolution 4.0, and green technology. The theme this year has been selected in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has forced us all to our desks to work from home and learn from home. With more and more sectors coming online and e-commerce becoming one of the strongest sectors in the industry, it is important for us to understand the risks and challenges involved with the digitalization process. Without further ado, I would now like to invite the Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, Engineer Associate Professor Dr. Hezarul Abdul Karim, to open the forum by giving his opening speech and launching the forum officially. Over to you, Dr. Hezarul.
Thank you, Dr. Siva. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I would like to thank the event organizers, Industrial Linkage Committee, Faculty of Engineering MMU, Engineering Education Technical Division E2TD of Institute of Engineers Malaysia, IEM, MMU IEM Student Section, and IEEE MMU Student Branch for organizing this event. Secondly, on behalf of Faculty Engineering, I would like to thank all of the forum panelists, Mr. Hizam, Mr. Abdul Karim, and Mr. Sanjay, who have vast industrial experience in digitalization. Despite of their busy schedule, they are willing to be here today. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, the Industry Forum has been organized annually since 2011, initially intended for MMU engineering undergraduate students. As time goes by, with the digitalization takes place, we are now able to share it with more people. This is the second time we broadcast this event live through a digital platform, hoping it will reach more people and will benefit audience in various aspects. Ladies and gentlemen, since the pandemic started, everyone is struggling to survive and many aspects of life has changed. Today, we have no choice but to harness the use of digitalization and technology in facing this pandemic. Everyone has to quickly learn how to use digital platforms and need to change their way of working, studying, selling, communicating, etc. There are many challenges and problems that we face in catching up with all these changes. In this forum, our panelists will discuss more on this topic. We hope it will benefit all of you. Thank you for joining us today. Stay safe and take care. With that, I would like to officially launch the 10th FOE Industry Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hazarul, for the launch and the welcome speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our privilege today to have three extremely experienced experts from the telecommunication industry who will be sharing with us their experiences and the way forward to harness digitalization in the era of the COVID-19 pandemic. The first speaker is Mr. Sanjay Vahasya. Sanjay Vahasya completed a Bachelor of Engineering in Communication and Electronics from the University of Northumbria, United Kingdom. He brings with him 26 years of techno-commercial experience with 10 years in various CXO positions. Sanjay has a reputation for strong organization and leadership capability in countries such as Bangladesh, Maldives, India, Kuwait, Czech Republic, Australia, and home country Malaysia. Sanjay also focuses on strategy planning, consultancy, training, and advisory to operations and executives, needing insights to business transformation, new market and technology ventures, and personnel development. Sanjay was a PADI scuba instructor and DDI disabled diver instructor trainer, something he enjoyed as an avenue to de-stress and giving back to less privileged community. In his free time now, Sanjay enjoys diving, golf, hiking with the Royal Selangor Club, Hash House Harriers, and socializing. Sanjay is also an affiliate member of the Institute of Corporate Directors, Malaysia. Mr. Hizam Ghazali brings with him professional and senior managerial experience of 20 years in business management, profit and loss responsibilities, company-wide digital transformation, operating model and process simplification, B2B technology-based development, mass market customer experience management, digital marketing, and business processing outsourcing. He served as the TM Group Acting Chief Digital Officer from April to October 2019, before TM's Group Digital Center was realigned under Group IT and Digital GITD, in which he championed and managed key projects core to TM's digital transformation, which included connecting analytics, strengthening digital assets, and implementing agile organization. In his current role, he is also responsible for the design of fit-for-purpose and fit-for-use IT solutions that can be delivered by TM and its ecosystem to facilitate customers to achieve the intended business outcomes. Mr. Abdul Karim Fakir bin Ali. Abdul Karim brings with him over 25 years of vast experience in both network and IT systems for mobile and fixed communication. He rejoined Maxis in January 2014 as the head of network after a successful stint as Senior Vice President Network Services in DTAC, Thailand. He was promoted to Chief of Network of Maxis in 2020. As CNO of Maxis Berhad, Karim is responsible in the strategy development, implementation and operations of the overall Maxis network. He is also passionate in supporting the growth of industry's capabilities, which is aligned to the digitalization and automation ambition strategy within Maxis. Karim is among the pioneer of Bina Riang team, later known as Maxis, who planned and built the 2G network back in 1994. He is the current lead of the National Digital Infrastructure Lab 2020, supporting MCMC's Jendela ambition. Karim graduated from University Malaya Kuala Lumpur with first-class honours in a bachelor's degree of electrical engineering in 1994. He was the recipient of Rulers Education Award 1994 and Tunku Abdul Rahman Medal 1995. Engineer Dr. Go Victor received his PhD in Computer Science from Queensland University of Technology and is currently a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Engineering MMU. Dr. Go has more than 19 years of experience and is an expert in the area of cybersecurity, IR 4.0, IoT, and computer networking. He is also a certified information systems security professional, certified ethical hacker, and chartered engineer. Now, without further ado, I am honored to invite the forum panelists and moderator IR Dr. Go Victor to take the floor. Over to you, Dr. Victor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siva. So before I begin, I'd like to thank all our panelists today for sparing some time from your busy schedule to be with everyone, to share your wisdom and to share your knowledge. So as you know, our session today is all about understanding how digitalization, how technology can be used, especially in the face of this COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things that we always hear is this term digitization, and it's often used interchangeably with this term digitalization. So there's a bit of a difference, digitization, digitalization. Now, the term digitization it has a very different meaning from digitalization. They are interrelated, but a bit different. Digitization is the process of converting physical or analog data or information into digital form. So you can look at this as something as simple as scanning the hard copy documents into soft copy. Yep. Now, on the other hand, the concept of digitalization is leveraging or using digitization for the process of improving business processes, to create more revenue, to improve efficiency. So you see, they're interrelated, but a little bit different. Now, what I do want to get an idea of from each of you is how have your respective companies improved upon or leverage upon digitalization in your day-to-day runnings? So I would like to start with Encik Karim from Maxis.
Yeah, thanks, Encik Victor. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning all. I'm happy to be here to share things that what we are doing in Maxis. I think just to borrow a little bit context of what Victor mentioned, digitization is always mistaken with digitalization. Digitization is a technology by itself, as what Victor mentioned, conversion of text picture into digital format. Example, the ebook itself is one of the output of digitization. When it comes to digitalization, we usually associate that with the business context and using the digital technologies to change the way how we run and operate a business. As a matter of fact, as what nice to acknowledge that there's opportunity in terms of the new revenue. And most important thing is to the consumer value producing opportunities. The keywords of deliver the business, new business, faster, cheaper. And of course, from consumer standpoint, they always would like to have a better experience. And in Maxis, customer experience is one of our pillars. The reason why we exist to deliver and continuously improve our service so that customer will enjoy the service. And one of the specific area that what we are doing, the mobile application. In the past, people will have to travel to the service center to get to pay bill, to even to get the product and services activated. And in Maxis, we have almost about 5 million of our customer using the mobile application. You probably heard of My Maxis app, and as well as the Red app that usually widely used by more than 3 million prepaid customer, using subscribing, do a top up, and also subscribe to new product and services. So in Maxis, the digitalization started many years ago. I think as part of the context when we talk about the pandemic, in Maxis, you'll see at the latter part of the session, I've shared what we did in Maxis that to show proof that we are pretty much ahead of the pack in terms of digitalization. Over back to you, Victor. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Karim. That was very insightful what Maxis has done. And I understand that you all use and leverage on digitalization for your customer experiences. I'm a Maxis customer. I'm actually quite happy with what I'm experiencing now. So yeah, it does work, definitely. It does improve business. It does improve the overall experience. Okay, now, I would like to go on to Encik Hizam. Can I get your view on how digitalization has actually affected TM as an overall?
Hey, thanks, Dr. Victor, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, and good day to those in other parts of the world where I don't know what time of day it is. I would like to echo what Karim said, and just put a bit of perspective from where TM comes from. When we embarked on our digitalization journey way back in 2017, it was really a matter of survival, right? The market is changing, very competitive, us as consumers, our behaviors have changed. Our tolerance to poor service has really reduced, right? Though long time ago, when you call a contact center and made to wait 5 minutes before someone picks up, you'll be frustrated, but you probably still wait. But today, when you're put on hold for just a few seconds, that's it. You're gone. You'll probably even switch providers. So going digital for us was really keeping to the trend. Was really an adaptation of what the market and customers wanted, and it became part of the overall company strategy. And then when the pandemic hit us, as bad as it is, to the world and to the society, but it also somewhat accelerated this whole movement. Right? I mean, there's a famous saying goes on in many forums, which C-level drives digital transformation. And it's the big C now. It's COVID, right? So with COVID, all the challenges of getting our employees to adopt digital suddenly is no longer a problem, right? Because when there is a burning platform, people find ways to adapt and adopt. And in that sense, this whole digitalization movement has been accelerated big time. And I think that's what this forum is about, right? When you accelerate too quickly, other things come as a result. Other challenges come as a result. So I will be happy to share some of those insights and experience with the audience today. Looking forward to the rest of the hour. Over to you, Victor.
Thank you very much, Encik Izam. I'm also very interested to learn about the challenges as well as the issues related to digitalization, both in and out of TM. Okay, now finally we have Mr. Sanjay from Uradu. So Mr. Sanjay, would you care to share some of the activities related to digitalization in your company?
So I guess hi, good morning everyone, and thank you for having us, and thank you for having me on this forum as well, and salam sejahtera to everyone as well. I guess digitalization was always a big buzzword prior to this, right? Everyone was talking about it, but no one knew what it was until the big C hit us. And when the big C hit us, it became a reality that more and more processes that were old and archaic, processes that were manual, need to be automated. More and more in terms of organizations having more control of their interactions with the customer needs to be let go, in a sense that all of this needs to be given to the customers at their fingertips. And again, customer experience is number one. Now, if you look at Myanmar for that matter, the telecommunication was liberalized in 2014. It's a 7-year-old country where telecom just went boom, right? There was no telecom before, and then with us coming in and the competition coming in, telecom went big. Now, with the big C coming in, obviously data demand became higher, became more. Our data growth went by 25% overnight, and everything had to go from non-digital to digital in a market and industry where digitalization was still at a very infancy stage. So now everybody had to, not only the operators had to work towards digitalizing their systems and platforms, also the corporate organizations, but also the consumers, for that matter, needed to educate themselves in terms of trusting that doing transactions online, it's safe and it's secure. So it's the whole ecosystem that comes into play. It is not just the operators themselves that are enabling this infrastructure, but it's also the ecosystem and the consumers also trying to accept the fact that now they can get things done at their fingertips. And again, the infrastructure being the telecom data services that we provide is the platform for all of this to be made available. Now, the question here is that when you make that, when you open that door, the demand just goes up. So now handling that portion of it, and this is what Hizam was saying, right? There's a lot of opportunities that come with it. Obviously, there's risks to it as well. But I guess this is the new norm, and there's no opportunity for us to go back anymore. So this is going to be the new tomorrow. The question here now is that at what level does this digitalization escalate to? What is the catalyst? What is the next form of it? Today, what we're seeing is probably the first phase of it, in my perspective. There's going to be a second wave of not big C I'm talking about, but I'm talking about digitalization here in terms of the demand coming in from the larger consumers and corporate organizations. Back to you, Victor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay. Now, you mentioned very interestingly that this the pandemic has created a lot of opportunities in terms of I mean, there are challenges related to pandemics, obviously, but in terms of your business processes, there are also a lot of opportunities that were created. Now, how are there any specific examples of how your company, Ooredoo, has actually leveraged on these opportunities that were created due to pandemic in the form of, what are processes do you actually digitalize?
To be honest with you, there was never a point that you could select what you wanted to digitalize and what you don't want to do it. Right? You basically had to do everything. I mean, going into as basic as working from home, if you talk about working from home, a concept maybe a year ago, everyone would think that the sky is going to fall on your head and we'll find 10 excuses why we can't do it and it's not going to be productive. If you look at it today, that's the new norm. Everybody is working from home and things are working fine. We are still running in operations. We're still running in a network that serves daily 7 million subscribers and then a total of 30 million customers that we have here. So I think the question is not about what do you do and which one do you do first. You have to kind of do everything across. I guess the biggest challenge here that you see in terms of the success factor is the mindset. Yeah. And the first advantage mover is always the best mover. I mean, if you look at the discussions in the board meetings today are no longer about growth and yeah, the growth is always there. But the biggest topic in the board meetings today is how fast can we digitalize? How fast can we provide services with the current pandemic that we have and the current new norms? Which means that we have to translate whatever we were doing before yesterday to today without having the interaction with customers, right? But still growing your business, still making sure the customers are happy, still making sure that you provide the best customer experience. So the whole paradigm of it comes into perspective. So it becomes very challenging in terms of delivering this, but also it creates lots and lots of opportunity. And the biggest opportunity it creates is the first person that thinks outside the box. The first person who creates a first mover advantage is basically going to set the path towards the future for not only that organization, but also the following organizations around. Back to you, Victor.
Okay. Very, very interesting. One of the points that you mentioned was just 2 years ago, people were not so, the whole idea of, like, for example, working from home, that would have been quite a far-fetched idea. And the pandemic sort of like, I think in Encik Hizam's words, it accelerated the adoption. Now, I'd like just to get Encik Karim, like in your company, have you seen a greater willingness to adopt all these technologies as opposed to previously, when you're trying to convert processes, when you're trying to say working from home, people were maybe reluctant. Do you see a change in mindset with this whole pandemic hitting us in adopting all this?
Yep. So I think overall, in terms of from a Maxi's journey standpoint, it's a mixed bag. But I think overall, rather positive when it comes to the adopting, trusting, as what my friend Sanjay mentioned. People a bit 50-50, whether like will this digitalization then going to replace them? The importance of human capital, how do we then develop people to be on track to that? But one thing for sure that Victor, you highlighted very important point, unprecedented scenario in in the country because of COVID. The three of us are basically from the telco service provider. We also basically participate likewise the frontliner in the medical hub. We have people that ensure that they will then build the network to maintain the customer experience. Sanjay mentioned, Hizam also mentioned that during the lockdown, you'll see about 40 to 50% of traffic builds up shift from the commercial area to residential and home area. People also screaming that the area that what they used to work with now, I mean, from office to home, lacking of the connectivity coverage. And people are raised saying that, well, please enhance the coverage given that this is unprecedented and people work from home predominantly. So I think on behalf of the telco services in the country, we are very fortunate. I think we are working very, very closely with the ministry and MCMC to build the network as fast as possible. And in Maxis ourselves, likewise what Sanjay mentioned, customer experience is one of the key elements. We are building the network as fast as possible, despite having the essential services. Essential services is not a ticket for the telco services to just go out there and roam around and build the network. We also pretty much concerned of our staff safety. SOP is one of the key elements that we want to ensure that people follow that. And as much possible, we also challenging ourselves. One of the specific things that what we have been operating for the last 25 years, having a command center. Usually a command center that running 24/7, you always have people in the operation center. And for the very first time in 25 years, we do not really have people in our command center. Everything running 24/7, we call it operation center running from home. So you just imagine this is one of the, I would say in Maxis or perhaps in the country, people running 24/7 command center from home. So that's one of the key thing that we are very, very proud in Maxis.
Very interesting. Your command center will be, that would be the NOC, right? The Network Operation Center?
Yes, the NOC and SOC that usually people will then have the facing in front of the big terminal or big screen to ensure that whenever that we have an alarm, we dispatch the field operation people to fix the fault and as well as error. So it's all running from home.
Very interesting. Okay, now, like what Encik Karim said, there is, with all this COVID going around, with all this pandemic and people working at home, stuck at home, now I would like to ask this to Encik Hizam from TM. How do you think TM has supported the government's efforts, in not so much as indirectly in battling this COVID-19, not so much as in literal frontliner, as in, people have to start working from home, people have to be able to continue doing their business, How has TM actually carried out, any of the initiatives to actually support any of this digitalization in our day-to-day life, in our new norm, so to speak?
Yeah. So, as I was alluding to a bit earlier, and my colleagues here, Sanjay, Karim, rightly pointed out, connectivity is like air now, right? It's like oxygen. You don't think of it, right? But the moment it's not there, you suffocate, right? And when you're working from home or when you are studying from home, it becomes, such a problem, right? And because it literally means you are offline and you are not able to produce your work or submit your thesis and so on and so forth. So the push for greater assurance, or rather restoration, becomes very paramount. And TM, predominantly being a fiber or a high-speed broadband provider, it becomes a little bit harder for us to repair with all these movement controls and so on and so forth. Yeah. So one of the things that we are doing in TM to kind of improve that service is, first and foremost, putting in place a promise. Yeah? And one of the promises that we are working towards being able to deliver or enable is, whenever there is a challenge of broadband at home, there is this commitment to restore within 24 hours. Okay? So sometimes it takes longer than that, depending on where the fault is and so on and so forth. But one of the things that we are committed, and keep an eye out there, guys, on this initiative. There will be a service or a guarantee for restoration within 24 hours. Yeah? So that's one. Second is, when it comes to fiber infrastructure, it's finite, right? It's only available at where we build it, at where we invest in it. Yeah? So, and because of this situation, the demand for home or broadband at home has increased multiple fold. Yeah. So there are cases now where customers walk into our shops or they want to apply online and realize that the infrastructure for that area is not available. Yeah. So one of the other commitments that we have put in place, and this is together in working with the government, and I believe Maxis can vouch this as well. The idea is to make the infrastructure ready, if it's not there, within 14 days. So that, once upon a time, if the infra is not there, you will, customers would have to wait and see who gets there first. Yeah. But now there is a commitment to build new ports, if I may, within a 14-day period. And the last few months, internally, operationally, we've been working out, all these moving parts to enable these kind of commitments to the customers, to the rakyat, and also indirectly, even directly to the government. Yeah.
Perhaps if I may add to Hizam's point on the 14 days, that is the 14 working days. That's the industry commitment.
There you go.
To deliver, to expand the delivery of services. And that being said, I wish to also use this opportunity to help out the communication of a big program at the country level. We call it Jendela. This is also the key element in terms of extending the connectivity to the whole country. We have right now embarking on phase 1 of Jendela. That by end of phase 1, which is by end of 2023, we would expect the mobile connectivity going to reach to 96.9%. And for the fiber connectivity, as what Cik Izzah mentioned, I think the country going to add approximately 2 million plus fiber connectivity, we call it premise passes. And so by end of phase 1, which is by 2023, you will see that, more connectivity, more reach, not only in the urban area, but also in the rural area. So we will share the overall digitalization enjoy, not only for the businesses, even for the student, and as well as the helping the social economy of people in the rural area as well.
Thank you, Encik Karim and Encik Hizam. That's very interesting. I would like to ask Mr. Sanjay. Mr. Sanjay, I understand that Ooredoo operates out of Myanmar. Are there similar efforts in Myanmar in improving the digital infrastructure so that the adoption eventually, because there's a great opportunity there in Myanmar, they're almost starting from zero. So I'm guessing there's not too much of a legacy systems there, so you can actually leapfrog. So are there some similar efforts in improving the digital infrastructure in Myanmar?
I'll answer the question in two parts here. One is, I welcome the efforts of Jendela, and I welcome the efforts of the telecom operators. I'm in the telecom for the last 26 years, but I'll have to take a little bit of a jab here and say that, I think we need to accelerate and make sure that customer experience is delivered in Malaysia, because, the emerging markets, I would say, the countries that I've worked in, Bangladesh, Maldives, and now in Myanmar, not far behind Malaysia in terms of the customer experience with lesser infrastructure. Now, like I said, the telecom industry boomed up in 7 years back. Fiber does not exist. Let me just give you a bit of a statistics, right? National grid availability is only 75%. I'm not talking about national grid extension to availability. This is the availability of the national grid is 75%. The network is up in more than 99.5% of the time. So, trying to keep anything that is up longer than any kind of basic utility infrastructure is available is a challenge itself. That's the power. Then you talk about fiber, as you're saying, right? And we're talking about expanding fiber in 14 days and everything else. It's a massive work. Don't get me wrong. Pulling fiber from one location to the other, it's not an easy task. But when you look at Myanmar, those infrastructure don't exist. If you look at the size of the country, it's 56 million population, close to about, 1/7, close to 2 times the Malaysian population. But the fiber that's available in the country, I'll probably be saying it's about 1/100th of what's available in Malaysia. And yet the demand for data is very, very high. There's no fixed line in Myanmar. Everything is mobile. So you can imagine that whatever consumers' behavior in Malaysia is very similar to Myanmar, because you have corporate organization, you have schools, you have the youngsters, the Gen X, the Gen Y, the baby boomers, everyone's there. Yeah. So the same demand of infrastructure and data is there. Now, how do you provide those kind of services with lesser infrastructure? The challenges are massive, massive. We have 2G, 3G, and 4G as well. We have LTE. Now with the talks about 5G coming into places like Myanmar as well, where the infrastructure is not there. So for mobile operators and telecom operators, it becomes a challenge. Yeah, it becomes a massive challenge. And I guess this is where the biggest concern that we have and the biggest driver that we have is how do we ensure that we give the consumers what they require, right? Because the slightest drop in customer experience, especially in data today, is very, very detrimental. I mean, you can leave home without your wallet today, but you try leaving your home without a mobile phone in your hand, you're completely a lost soul. So, that is how connected every human, the mankind is today in terms of data. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're in Malaysia or you're in any emerging market, the data demand is just going to grow higher and higher. I mean, if you look at it, just to quote a bit of statistics that I just kind of looked at yesterday, right? The average growth globally in terms of mobile has been 1.8%. Yeah, 7.9 billion population. 1.8% may sound small, but it's actually 93 million people that has just gone within during the pandemic period. Now you start looking at it from a Southeast Asia, North America, emerging market, non-emerging market, challenging markets. It's very different, and the demand is still the same. I want more and more demand. I want more and more data. Now the thing about data is no longer about how much throughput you get. It's about the reliability. And I keep saying this, right? It's not about how much bandwidth I get. If I have the best reliable internet service with a lesser throughput, I can still get to do what I want to do. And I think that's where the focus should be from now on, from not only from the mobile operators, but also the content providers who are using the infrastructure to provide those services to their consumers, right? So it's a challenge. It's a challenge across. Back to you, Victor.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Okay, now digitalization. Yeah, I understand that each and every there are similarities as well as differences between each of your company's adoption of digitalization. But at the beginning of today's session, Encik Hizam mentioned that there were some interesting challenges that they actually faced. Hizam, would you like to care to share some of the challenges that you experienced, either at personal level or at your company?
Sure. I mean, there are some very trivial ones which annoys the hell out of people. Yeah. For example, if you look at my calendar today, there's just no gaps in between. It's like one meeting after the another, and so on and so forth. And it used to not be like that, right? We used to allocate time to move from one meeting room to another. But today, sometimes you're toggling between two meeting screens. Yeah, so that's something that changed. But there's also a plus side to that. No one is ever late for meetings anymore, and I find that so valuable. Waiting in a room, in a virtual room for 2 minutes feels like forever. Yeah, so we rarely turn up late for meetings anymore. So that's the flip side of that. Another trivial one is, we tend to talk to ourselves more now. Yeah, we like the sound of our own voice. Yeah, suddenly we realize we're on mute. But those are trivial. But on a more serious note, one of the biggest challenge that the organization faces when it comes to working in this new norm is, I personally think, getting things done, as in running activities, making sure people do what they're supposed to do, following up, and so on. Yeah, is easy and has somewhat become easier to do. Continuously trying to innovate, however, has become a little bit more challenging, because these light bulb moments, when it comes to creativity and innovation, sometimes happen when you're having teh tarik, when you walk into someone's room, casually, and having those informal conversations. But today that rarely happens now, right? When you want to talk to someone, you have to set a schedule. You have to know the person. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to exchange ideas. Yeah? So in the short term, it looked as if everything was all right in terms of getting things done. Yeah? And I believe my colleagues are also doing well performance-wise, right? When it comes to delivering. Yeah? But when it comes to innovating for new ideas, that is where I don't think we've found the right formula yet in balancing the two. So I'll leave it at that, Victor, yeah, as one of the biggest challenges that as an industry, as a country, or even universities would have to think of in the long term. How do we continuously innovate when we are stuck in our own rooms and houses? My friends here can add on.
Yeah, you state a very interesting point, because I know a lot of the best laid ideas, best plans are written on the back of serviettes in a coffee shop. It's not the biggest company I started from the little piece of paper you get in the restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, Victor, on that note, the whole design school of Stanford, right, started by exactly that. The mission statement was written on a piece of serviette at a cafe, and it became a campus. It became a whole school, right? So yeah, you're right, Victor.
Yeah. Okay. For me personally, I'm in the education sector. You mentioned that we spend more time talking to yourself, which is absolutely true. When I teach, I talk to a blank wall. Quite literally, I talk to a blank wall without any form of feedback. So, but you've gotten used to that. These are just some of the challenges that you're experiencing, and I do appreciate and understand what you're going through. So now, similarly to the same question I posed to Hizam, Mr. Karib, do you have any of your challenges or issues or concerns, or some of your bugbears related to all this digitalization, all this working from home and all that?
Yeah, I think the experience in Maxis is, I would say, 90-10. 90 is all pretty much positive, and 10 an opportunity for us to even make it even more positive. I pretty much agree with Cik Hizam. There's two parts of it. One, that we as the digitalization adopter, and second, we are the creator of digitalization. And we know that this is in a country, it's not just about a company to apply. We also require the supply of the workforce expertise, and especially we are talking about adopting a new technology, require human capital development, so that they have the appropriate skill for them to develop the program, for them to really understand the overall context of and structure of data scientists, for example. And these are all the fundamental stuff that require for you to be successful and effective in developing your digitalization. And people as a whole take it for granted. They thought like things are done as it is, but there's a lot of hard work of people, our colleagues, friends in IT stream, in engineering stream that learn a lot because these are predominantly a new skill set in a country or the whole world. We require learning, continuous learning. And of course, the whole thought process from the Center of Excellence is quite important so that we have this support structure that equivalent working together with university. Because example, we are working with university to start to accelerate the journey of whenever that we are accepting the internship student. So in Maxis specifically, we are very, very happy to see student of University Malaya, UTM. I think we have a couple of students from MMU as well participating and practicing flex their muscle to adopt more of digitalization. And I would say we are very, very bright future ahead because like the whole ecosystem is there. All we need to do is like work together to support each other and be more positive in the overall program.
So now you mentioned that you're working closely with universities. Do you foresee a need for any new skills in the face of this digitalization, or it's just enhancement of current skills and knowledge that we have?
No, the digitalization skill itself require a new skill. I think I've just completed providing some feedback to the program structure of University Malaya Engineering study. They have more elective machine learning, analytics, AI. I think AI, we have heard about AI for the last 20, 25 years. I still remember during my third year study, AI, one of the elective. And now AI is not just elective, it's one of the key core of a business that what industry always look forward. So yes, we can see that university started to be more responsive to the need of the industry. And I believe we can also contribute and work together. But I think MMU is pretty ahead in that. Otherwise, like you won't be having this online forum. That basically good job. Keep it up to MMU team.
Thank you very much, Encik Karim. Encik Hizam, you have something to add?
Yes. Maybe just before Sanjay, I would like to add on when it comes to skills. Yeah. So that's two, right? That's the hard skills for digitalization, as in the technology, which I think all the engineering students today, you're at the right place. But there's also a skill that we need to be very aware of, and perhaps if we could even sharpen this during the university days, would really, really be helpful. Yeah, and that is in having the human or the customer in the center of your design. So engineers, developers, we like to build, right? What we don't want is building things, as in build a solution and then look for a problem, right? We need to flip that mindset. Yeah? Think of a real human problem and then work towards building a solution. And that's what the digital natives are really, really good at, right? The likes of Grab, Shopee, Lazada, and so on. They really looked and identified a real human problem, and they came up with a very simple solution, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure even the undergraduates at this engineering faculty can come up with the same kind of app, right? But it's not just about the app. It was the fact that the idea really solved a real human problem. So what I'm trying to say here is that if we could couple the hard skills with all these softer skills, I can call them, yeah, then we can make a winning graduate, and I'm sure Maxis, TM, and even Sanjay would be happy to hire.
That's a very interesting point. We put humans at the center of it, human problems. We want to solve problems, not create more problems with solutions which we don't need. Mr. Sanjay, do you agree with what Mr. Karim Hizam said in terms of all this capital, all this retraining of your current capital, as well as the human capital, as well as the future generations in moving forward?
Yeah. Completely agree, and there's no questions asked about in terms of what they said, whether it was right or wrong, right? It has to be done. But I guess just adding on a little bit to what Hizam was saying, right? The technology front of it and basic understanding of it is there. The universities like MMU and everybody else is focusing on that. I think the biggest one here is the soft skills and the mindset. Where in this today's world, the mindset is the biggest challenge that the human being has, right? And I'll just take one step back. A year ago, if you had told everyone, the education fraternity, the corporate organizations, that we will now start working from home and you're going to be conducting classes online, we would have come out, like I said earlier, 10,000 excuses why we can't do it, and the sky is going to fall on our heads. When the wall was pushed against us and we had no other choice but to bring that wall down in order for us to move forward, it was just mindset. Today, if I look back, or we look back a year ahead, everything is possible. Yeah. Yes, there are kinks, there are speed bumps and issues, but they are not about technology as per se. They're more about mindset and adaptability and also cultural issues, right? Because there are, different countries have got different cultural adaptations that needs to be taken into consideration. So mindset is the biggest challenge. And I echo to what Kizam is saying, and a message to the engineers. And I keep telling my engineers this: do not give the customers what you think the customers want. Give the customers what they want. And I'll use the Grab example as well, right? And when people develop applications or apps, one thing they fail to realize is that how many clicks does it take from the start to the end for that transaction to be over? And the engineer will build it. You will have 15 clicks where he will take you through the park and everything else, and waterfalls and everything else. But the consumer doesn't have the patience. If you can get from point A to point B in 3 clicks compared to 5 clicks, just keeping a very simple example here, you should opt for the 3-click option, because people are getting having less patience. They want things done faster. People don't have patience anymore, especially when things are online and you have more and more competitive applications coming out, competitive competitors coming out. The word agility kicks into place, and agility comes into mind. And the only way you can overcome agility is by mindset and soft skills. Yeah.
Perhaps,
back to you.
Perhaps I can just add to what Sanjay just mentioned. Right? I think technology have changed. The world have changed. It's not a matter of choices. It's not a matter of I do have choice whether do I then stay non-digital or do I then learn digital. The key message to the current workforce: we need to continuously evolve. We need to continuously embrace the digitization, because the demand from the industry, the demand from business, expectation from customer is all leading towards digitization. And that being said, we also going to have the new workforce that right now getting all the formal education practices on the digitization, the one I've mentioned about the machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, and the likes of that. So people need to stay competitive. The current workforce. So one of the key elements for each company is to ensure that continuous learning, continuous education, refresh or reskill. People will then have to learn. Example, when we first started the telco in the country, we only have a 2G. And now we are reaching the 4G maturity and started to talk about 5G. So this is what we call the evolution of technology. We will have to embrace. There's no second thought of it. Either you are being part of it or you will be left out.
So yeah. So there is basically adopt or die. That's basically another way of more direct of saying it.
Yeah, Victor, let me just add another thought on that. Anyone who's still in doubt that when you go into the workforce, you need to think whether you want to go digital or not, just wear your other hat. What is that other hat? As a consumer, right? As a consumer today, can you not do something digital? You can't, right? So just every time you find yourself questioning whether should we do it or not, just flip hats and wear your consumer hat, and then you will know the answer.
That is a very simple and elegant way, to change perspective. I think that it will help a lot, definitely. Now, I hear all of you say that there is digitalization. It is a must. Moving forward is a must. There are greater expectations from business. There are greater expectation from the customer point. So now, what I'm curious about is, with all this greater expectation, with greater digitalization, that also means there's greater connectivity for the staff. They're constantly online. They have a lot of issues to deal with. How do you see all of this, with greater digitalization? How do you see it affecting staff well-being? Now, this is a question for all of you, but I will start off with Mr. Karim.
Thanks. That's very interesting. As a matter of fact, we discussed that. We had one management meeting just evaluating that we have just too many meetings in the office. Me, myself personally, I have about 12 to 14 meetings a day. So pretty much back to back from 8:30, 8 o'clock, sometimes stretch over until towards the evening or even towards the night. So what we did, like we set an expectation. We think that we can't be continuously doing that, even though we enjoy meeting, discuss solving, meeting our customer expectation and growing the business and whatnot. I think it's the fundamental of the work-life balance is very important. So what we did, management team get together saying that let's draw some rules. Example, we should finish the meeting, even though our working hours is from 9 to 6 p.m. But we say like all meetings should finish by 5:30, and let's allow 30 minutes of the time for our staff to at least tidy up their emails or clear the emails and whatnot. So that's kind of commitment that what we are doing in the company. Even to the extent in the past, we even sacrificed our lunch for the meeting. And what we are now saying that we deserve an hour, and we have agreed on a slot that across the company. We say, okay, this is an hour of quality time for us to at least breathing before we continue to run again. Of course, people are very excited to support the business, to meet the customer expectation, customers need. But then we individually as a human being, we have also our own needs. For those of you all like work from home, you have your family needs as well. So you got to balance that. So in Maxis, work-life balance, mental well-being is one of the key elements, and we put that as a priority. And our employee, as a human capital, the most valuable asset of the company. So we put that as a top.
Yeah, very interesting, because now when you mention it, we keep talking about digitalization. Our usual mama sessions, which was actually what we call as informal meetings, our coffee room breaks, our lunch, group lunch, these were all informal forms of meeting, which we could actually get a lot of things done. Like I think AJ Hizam mentioned, a lot of the great thinkings are done in all these informal settings. But because of all this working from home environment, we don't have that anymore. And now we have to formalize it by having all these appointments in the calendar. So I suppose to some lesser extent, because it has been formalized, it does add to a bit of what you call as a stress level and back-to-back meetings, especially during lunchtime.
Victor, the corridor talk, the mama talk and so on is already happening, right? If you observe that, like one thing that very synonym of Asian as well, when I was in Thailand, Line application is super popular. And in Malaysia, we know that like WhatsApp is the topmost social apps. And you ended up creating a group after group. You have subgroups just to discuss, to talk about certain things and whatnot. So those are basically become very, very synonym. And Malaysia, in fact, one of the top 3 highest in the world when it comes to the WhatsApp data-driven. That's what we can see.
Very interesting. Mr. Sanjay, what about yours? Oh, okay. Mr. Hizam first. You'd like to go.
It doesn't beat watching football at a mamak lah.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Sanjay, how do you manage?
Sorry. Yeah. The work-life balance is a very, very difficult. I'll give you an example, right? My son wrote an article in his final year IB program that said how modern-day internet has somewhat developed an antisocial society. This was prior to the Big C. And surprisingly, I was one of the industry experts in his survey, right? So I was like, hey, I'm in the business of providing internet where we connect people, and now you're saying that, what we are developing or what we are producing today is going to be creating an antisocial society. And if you look at it today, fast forwarding about a year and a half, 2 years from that, and with the Big C coming in, and the way we have to work, the way we are, and the mamas that we are talking about, and the corridor discussion, I completely agree. I missed that as well. But I think that's going to be the new mama coming up, right? The new corridor discussion, the new mama is going to come up. And I think we have to agree, and sorry for being a wet blanket here, I think we have to agree that the old days are gone. And we have to find a new way of creating these new mama stalls discussions and the new corridor discussions, so that, as what Hizam was saying, the light bulb moment, we don't lose that light bulb moment. we do create a work-life balance. Yes, I find myself sitting down more than 10 hours a day on meetings back to back, which is completely crazy. During those days, when you're in the office, you can at least still have your your meetings and still clock maybe 3,000, 4,000 steps a day. Today you don't clock that anymore. The only thing that you're clocking is the amount of time that you're sitting on one particular chair in that 8-hour period, right? So I think we have to find a new way of moving forward, and this is where it is. We can reminisce about the past and be nostalgic about it, but the new way of working is here, and we have to find a new way of moving forward. So the challenges here is not only on the corporate fraternity, but if you look at the human resource fraternity, a lot of new ideas have to come in terms of creating this work-life balance, and like what Karim is saying, Maxis is doing, where you have a hard stop, right? Now, whether that works or not in the long run, yet to be seen. But obviously, it's working for Maxis, right? But it may not work for other organizations because the industries are different. How do we create team building events? How do you create team development? How do you do learning and development for employees in organizations when you're working remotely? How do you do coaching sessions for peer second line successes and so on and so forth? So there's a lot of changes that needs to happen, not only on the digitalization, but also on the soft skill part of it. And I think as society, we have to embrace this and say, what, the old days are gone, even though the lockdowns will be lifted and everything else, but the businesses will operate in a very, very different fashion going forward. That's at least my perception and my view of it. Back to you, Victor.
Thank you very much. Encik Hisam, would you like to add on?
I would. Coming back to the topic of well-being just now, yeah, and I want to try and relate this to the engineering students here today, how it becomes an opportunity. Yeah, this is a non-telco example, and it's a real one because I just had this conversation with the industry colleague from the oil and gas. Yeah? So he works offshore, right? So he gets sent offshore for 8 weeks, and then he comes back and gets 8 weeks with his family. Yeah? And and that's how it is for them, right? But because of the current situation, he gets sent 8 weeks. But when he wants to come back, he gets quarantined 2 weeks. He needs to do this, and he needs to do that. And he only has like 2 weeks left with the family before he has to go again. So just imagine that human challenge, right? So, and here we have, right, all this engineering, gurus, yeah, coming soon, yeah. If we could solve those kind of problems for my friend just now through what? The use of virtual reality, through the use of, again, high-speed connectivity with virtual reality, maybe he doesn't even need to go offshore as much and still get the work done. So again, there's always two sides to this, right? On one end, it creates new problems, but on the other hand, it will create new opportunities. And who do we need to rely on to create these opportunities and find solutions? This is why this forum, Victor.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to add. There are, like you said, there are a lot of opportunities. The solutions may not be obvious yet, but it is there. And I think this is what, like I said, the purpose of this forum. There are a lot of students participating in this forum now. They're watching this forum, and this is an open question to all of them. I think this is very interesting. Just like to add my own personal opinion, I think like what Mr. Sanjay, Karim, Hisam has mentioned, moving forward, to some lesser extent, there's all this, we are converting all this this is personal experience, yeah, mama corridor talk, and the need for it to move, moving forward, we can't go back to the old ways. But I think we do need to develop some etiquettes for all these new mediums. When we're talking about WhatsApp, traditionally WhatsApp has always been related to informal chats to some lesser extent. But when you actually have your colleagues in a group, then it becomes a bit of a work chat. But you're mixing work chat with informal chat medium. Sometimes people people don't quite see it. Like I said, there's no etiquette yet. Sometimes they may not realize that chatting at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. at night may not be so appropriate, especially for work-related matters. So anyway, these are just etiquettes to think of moving forward. I think we have time now to move on to some of the Q&A questions from some of the audience members. So there are several questions here. I'll pose each of these questions to each member of the forum panelists here. The first question, let me present this to Mr. Hizam because it's related to what he just said, something about offshore work. Abdullah Ali, he asked, can all jobs be digitized? If the majority of jobs can be automated, will the company reduce the needs or the need for manpower?
Okay. Same question being asked in my organization at the moment. Yeah. Let me just give you a context. Group IT of TM today is approximately 700 employees. Yeah. And the right size for us is approximately 300. Yeah? And we are working towards coming to that size. So just imagine how scary that can sound to our employees. Yeah? But the whole strategy of getting to that size is not about reducing the manpower, because the manpower that we have today is there because of the work that they need to do today, right? When we automate, and we are automating big time now, yeah, leveraging on technologies like RPA, for example, is to offload the current mundane tasks so that our staff can move on to all these other new opportunities I spoke about just now, right? Because today, people talk about it as ideas, but someone needs to work on it, right? And and in order to work on it, we have to offload the current work, right? So that's always been the idea and the strategy. Automation or digitalization will help reduce current work so that the people or the staff can be upskilled to take on the new opportunities. Yeah? So just imagine if group IT, which is an internal IT organization, comes down to 700 to 300. Don't forget, we also have a B2B arm in TM. We call that brand TM1. Yeah? So if we were to serve banks, if we were to serve universities, right, those clients are served via our B2B arm, TM1. And TM1 also needs to promote and sell IT technologies and IT services to their clients. So moving 400 from internal IT to our external business makes a lot of sense, because then it becomes revenue generating, right? Compared to it being a cost center. So Abdullah here, yes, all jobs can be digitalized. You can go crazy. Should you worry about losing one's job? No, because that's the whole point of automating in the first place. We automate it so that we can get rid of it and then move on to the next best thing in life. I hope that gives a bit of flavor to how we think of it.
Yep, thank you very much, Hizam. Just an important point to note for Abdullah. The whole idea of automation, even with machine learning, is to automate, basically computers are very good at repetitive tasks. But what they lack is the ability to function creatively. So that's where humans actually excel. And, like what Hizam said, moving people, the humans, into all these other business areas where, they are more revenue generating because they meet clients, they have to, think creatively. This is where the future is. Repetitive tasks, automated. Creative task, will be the humans in front of it. Okay, so now I present next question to Mr. Sanjay. Min Ying Lim asked, okay, this is a very direct question. For those companies who are struggling to adopt digitalization, does that mean they are not good companies?
I wouldn't say they're not good companies. All companies are good. I mean, companies do not exist if they're not good, because they're obviously providing some kind of needs to the consumers. I guess I would rephrase that to say that they may not have found a way to digitalize their product offering to the consumers and their reach to consumers. It's just a matter of them trying to unlock that, right? Because you have to look at it. If the company is not successful, it wouldn't exist. So if the company is existing, it is successful. The question here is, again, I was saying earlier in terms of digitalization, are you are you at the first move advantage? Are you in the front of the queue? Are you in the middle of the queue? Are you at the back of the queue? Potentially, this company that you're talking about or you're asking could be potentially slightly behind of the queue, but they're not left behind. It's just a matter of time for them to pick them up. That's my view of it.
Okay, so thank you very much. So yeah, some companies, I think this is also relating to what another one of the participants has asked, is some companies may not be able to automate that easily. You know, perhaps they are in manufacturing, they are in production. So the process of digitalization may not be so straightforward, but it can be done. It's just that they are slightly behind, you know, or they have not found where they can actually digitalize.
Two parts to that, Victor, if I can just, if you may. Yeah? So
Please.
one is obviously the manufacturing part of it. Obviously, they may be using automations and machines to do it, or there may be manual labor behind that. That's fine. But that's the other part of it, where is the consumer-facing processes. Now, if they're able to digitize that portion of it and make sure that they can still service their customers, not in the old traditional way, but in the new way of interacting, I think they will be equally successful in the current circumstances and also moving forward, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to change everything from the back to the front to digital in order for you to be called digitalized company, right? It is about how are you able to provide the service to your consumers in the new fashion. And if you are, then you're there. That's I think we sometimes we tend to overcomplicate matters, right? Because we say, okay, fine, this is the buzzword, and everything has to be buzzword, right? And everything has to be electronic. No, it doesn't work that way. It is, are you able to provide the services that you're still providing to your consumers in the new way of working? It's as simple as that.
One advice if I could add on to that, Victor and Sanjay, if you don't mind, is that's
please.
Because there is so much to automate. I noticed that organizations that do struggle a little bit is when there's just so much to a point where, oh, where do I start? And so you end up overthinking, overanalyzing, being overcritical, and you don't move, right? So and that's one of the mindset principles that all new workforce and even existing workforce needs to have. Yeah? Opportunities is there, technologies is there. The question is, how do you prioritize and then move on with it, right? One technique that we've found really effective in helping us in that prioritization is put a number to it. Yeah? So if you've got 10 things, identify the benefits of doing the automation. For example, will it improve customer experience? Would it help reduce cost? Or would it help generate more revenue? Rank it, and then just start from the top, one at a time. 1, 2, 3, and by the time you realize you've done 40, you've done 50. Yeah. So going back to the RPA example that TM embarked on, we started in January 2020, and now it's what a year and 8 months. Without realizing, we've actually already deployed automation for 45 core processes. We started with 2,000 in the funnel. We were stuck. Where do we start? And do I do this first? Do I do that first? No. Let's just put it in the list, go one at a time, and you'll get there. And the beauty about digitalization is that if it doesn't work, it's just a piece of code. Get rid of it and do another one. That's no hard feelings. So yeah, just do it is the tip lah. Yeah, think big, start small.
I think that's a very good advice. Think big, start small, and quoting Nike copyright, just do it. Don't overthink it. Okay, thank you, Hizam and Sanjay. So now this next question is for Karim, Encik Karim.
we have a question by Kevin Henry. Okay, he says, we hear a lot of these buzzwords. You hear about AI, machine learning, big data. Now he asks,
how have you or your company used AI or big data to help you improve customer experience and also to be more effective and efficient as a company?
This is a very interesting question from Kevin Henry. Wonder whether Kevin Henry, our ex-colleague as well, but then the name itself like rings the bell. AI, ML, the overall digitization. In fact, we form Center of Excellence to ensure that we have the appropriate focus in this particular context. I think there's many areas how do we then be more effective in meeting the customer expectation. We can always look at it in various, I would say, journey of a customer subscribing to service with telco services. First and foremost, customer demand usage pattern will then have the behavior. So that like when we come up with the offering to customer, we always try to say, okay, this is the best offer that customer will then respond and subscribe. And of course, customer will then get the benefit out of it. So that's require billions of data points. That what we call it advanced analytics, and we have the appropriate kind of algorithm in order to predict and forecast the response from customer. So this is one of the specific area. Our marketing folks using a lot of data point from the usage behavior of customer, that what we in the network team pass it on, and we have a team that doing the data mining, doing the data massaging, put it in the appropriate dimension, so that it can be a process in coming up with the specific objective intention. So we are doing that in terms of addressing the go-to-market offering to our customer. In terms of the network experience, to ensure that, like for example, like you're enjoying the best of mobile speed, you are as good as able to maintain your call connectivity while you're driving, and for example, so that there's no drop call. So the engineers is no longer doing a drive testing, looking at it like whether what is basically a specific drop call point, or even having some challenges. So we are also using the million of data, looking at it from the context of the same terminology that I mentioned just now. When you analyze globally, which is the whole network wide. But when you take action locally, fix the specific problem. So you have that solution address and embark. So the data science, the AI, ML, we call it, already being used across the board. From the way how we come up with a product, the way how we deliver the product, even to the extent of the way how we then also save the cost of doing a business. That is also even we have our colleagues doing the rental negotiation, we call it. So when we put up a station, require quite extensive capex and opex, the rental itself. So we are also using that intelligent capabilities to illustrate what will be the outcome before we carry out the specific action, in order for us to better enhance the outcome accuracy of what we would expect. So that's in a nutshell how do we use the overall data science in the way of how we serve the customer.
So this is basically what you call as a data-driven decision making.
Yes, every single thing that our ambition, every single decision in the company must be supported with data, and the whole thought process of even to the extent of doing the predictive. Even right now, we should be able to predict when exactly a specific cut will then fail. So you just imagine if we be able to stop that, and we be able to catch and get people to service those cut that deemed to be failure, and will then be able to deliver the right customer experience. I mean, we call it always on experience, and that is how we use it.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Okay, now another question by Dr. Siva Priya has a question. I will put forth this question for Mr. Sanjay. She asked, what are the potential legal issues that might arise, due to digitalization? Some things like, for example, working hours, people working, beyond the working hours, getting hurt during working hours, but from the house. For example, these are some of the more obvious. Do you see any potential issues there, legal issues?
I think with the new digitalization, and I think the question is quite apt, right? The existing regulations, not only human resource laws or labor laws for that matter, or even cybersecurity for that matter, personal protection, personal information, all of this needs to be relooked again, because with digital, with everything being in the cloud, being in the app and everything else, and you are happily sharing it, and you're getting OTPs coming back from your banks for your transactions and stuff like that, it opens up for room for issues, disputes, and risk. Yeah. So this is not just the way a business is operating, but it's also in terms of, as what Dr. Priya, you alluding to, it's in terms of the health and the mental well-being, because of the fear of FOMO. People tend to overindulge into things and do things slightly more than normal. But I think this is where the whole regulatory regime, the laws needs to be relooked at it again, because it's not just the industry moving forward, but it needs to be regulated. And the existing regulations, not only from a telecom perspective, but across all paradigms. Yeah, do we need to add more conditions, or do we need to tighten some? Do we need to loosen some? And do we need to introduce new rules that supports both the consumers and the operators, or the corporate organizations and the service providers? And I think the answer is yes. And I think many have not started looking at it. It's the mankind, the human race kind of is a bit laggard in that sense, because we only look at it when something bad happens, right? Or when there's a dispute happening, rather than being proactive about it. So I guess you would see a lot more of that coming up as we go along.
Yeah. I think if I could add on to that, Sanjay, is I think we all have to accept, and if we haven't accepted this, think about it. This whole digital explosion is not going to end, right? It's always going to be a work in progress. Yeah? It's going to be a continuous journey. If we are hoping that regulators are ready, organizations are ready, schools are ready, only then we want to jump onto the bandwagon, it'll be too late. So embrace the fact that we are always going to be at day zero, and then you'll feel more comfortable in pursuing all these opportunities. I was having a conversation with an insurance organization. One of the things that's getting them scratching their heads now is that with driverless cars, who's going to pay for insurance? The driver's not driving, yeah? So is the manufacturer going to pay? Is the owner of the car going to pay? So, very basic questions, right, that they need to ask back to themselves and find the appropriate solution. So yeah, definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. Yeah, who is legally liable, in the terms of all these automated driverless cars? And, by extension, for example, if there's something that goes wrong with some of the automated processes, who's liable? Is it the programmer? Is it the customer service? Is the company liable as overall? So these are a lot of things which has to be ironed out: company policy, regulatory, laws and requirements of the country.
This is welcome to the new world of workings.
Yeah. I think they mentioned that, for example, this on another spectrum, is interrelated, but it's like moving forward, that the government may be introducing cyberbullying laws in the near future. So this is to address some of this whole thing about our lifestyle being digitalization, and there's a lot of challenges there also. I think that's a good way forward on the early steps. Okay, so thank you very much for all our panelists here today. We've come almost to the end of our session, but before we end, I'd like to get your parting words or advice for some of our audience members here. There are a few of participants from the university. There are many university students, there are school students, as well as there are working professionals. So I will just go around the table, the virtual table. I'll start off with Mr. Karim. Do you have any advice or insights to share on
Yeah, thanks, Victor. I think as what we have shared just now, the digitalization is not just an entity or one party is doing this. We are in it together. The whole intention here is basically to look forward for the opportunity and sharing the outcome of that. I think the overall bottom line, the digitalization exists and will continue to evolve, given that the nature of human being. We always fight for survival. We always want to ensure that we secure, safe. And of course, above all, we always quest for the improvement in our quality of life. That's require a continuous learning, and especially when we talk about to the people in MMU. And I believe there's many students out there or other people that continuously like to learn not about digitalization, but also start to look into the potential for us to apply digitalization in the way how we change the humanity for betterment. So please join us.
Thank you, Encik Karim. Mr. Hizam?
I would probably just say again to the students in the audience, engineering students and computer science and so on. I mean, first of all, you guys are you're on the right course. You've picked up the right thing to learn. It is meant for the future. I would just probably leave the advice that when you enter the workspace, or even when you are today still studying, one thing that we've got to really, really sharpen is our ability to deal with ambiguity. And from experience, and this is even in my own team, my own staff, engineers work better when things are firm, requirements are firm, everything is in boxes. But in today's digital world, there are no more boxes. There are no more clear demarcations. Lines are blurred. Today is like this. Tomorrow it'll be like that. So we've got to learn how to deal with the ambiguity, and then we can become really great engineers for the future.
That's basically learning how to put a square peg into a triangle hole. Okay, and finally, Mr. Sanjay, any parting words?
Interesting the way you put it, Izam. I mean, all fresh grads, no matter which faculty you're in, when you get to the corporate world, you're always a fish out of water, right? And you struggle. And, I went through that, and I believe my learned colleagues on the panel speakers on the call today have gone through that themselves. But I guess just adding on to what Karim and Hizam had mentioned, I think is the ability of you to adapt in situations that are ambiguous, is what Hizam is saying. And how fast can you bounce back? And as engineers, yes, we are used to binary, 1 and 0. And the minute there's a middle ground, we get lost, right? And guess what? The digital world is all about the middle ground. So you need to change your mindset. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. No matter whether you're a fresh grad or whether you are a corporate citizen with more than 10, 15, 20 years of experience, the biggest obstacle that you face today or anyone faces today is mindset. If you're able to overcome that, everything else becomes a walk in the park. So my only parting advice to everyone is that you need to have a very adaptive mindset moving forward in order for you to be successful in this new way, new world, or new world of workings moving forward. And I wish you all the very best, and I hope to see you guys not only flourishing in Malaysia, but flourishing international as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. So just to round it up, just to summarize what our panelists have said, continuous lifelong learning, that's very good. Ability to adapt, and another thing is the ability to deal with ambiguities. Challenges always crop out, but it's how well we adapt and manage those challenges. That's what defines how we how good or how well we move forward. Okay, so thank you very much once again to my fellow panelists. I enjoyed our discussions today, although it was virtual. It would be much more fun if we could have a drink, but this is what we say is moving forward. I would like to pass this back to Dr. Siva, and from my side, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Victor and our panel. It was indeed a very, very interactive and insightful discussion. And I think it has enlightened a lot. We now know what are the challenges that we are up for and how we need to be flexible in order to fit in this era of digitalization. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the forum. But before we go, I would like to share with you a small video clip on some of the workshops that are being offered by the Faculty of Engineering Multimedia University to the public. The video will be shared now. And if you are interested to join any of the workshops, please visit our website at foe.mmu.my. Thank you very much for viewing our workshop, and we hope to hear from you soon for those of you who are interested to sign up for the workshops. Okay, so we would like to thank the viewers, everybody, for your patience today and your time spent listening to our forum. And on behalf of the Faculty of Engineering Multimedia University, we would like to thank the distinguished panel for their time and for the sharing of their expertise. We are now flashing the attendance link for the participants today. Please sign up in the attendance link because we will send you the e-certificates through email. There are two links, please note. One is for school students and the other is for the public MMU students and other participants from the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to also shout out a special thank you to the MMU Studios and Encik Burhan, who has been our producer for today. Once again, on behalf of the faculty, I would like to thank you, and we hope you stay safe, stay at home, and try to break the COVID-19 chain. And we will see you again in the near future. All the best to you.